Matthew 24:12 says, "Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of many, the heart of many will grow cold." That's what's happening. People get more and more evil in the latter days. They can't love. It's all fakery. It's all smiles to compensate and performance. It's like living in a, well, I don't know, to me, an insane asylum. Fakery. I don't want it. The Christian, the Bible says, is in the world but not of it. You're not of the world. So what is the result? Feeling homesick. I felt homesick all my life, and I didn't know why. When I was around people, I felt homesick. But when I was alone, I felt happy. So happy. And I could never explain that. When I went to 6th grade camp, just with my peers, I spent the whole time in the infirmary. I was so homesick. Even though it was a hostile environment at home, alcoholic environment, that didn't matter. Because I was so maladaptive and so sheltered that I was homesick for it. I couldn't stand being around my peers. That's the way I felt in school. That's the way I felt all through high school and up to graduate school. Only when I'm alone does that homesick feeling go away, and it's finally explained to me. I'm from another world. We are in the world, but not of it. And I'm just now finding out through the internet that millions feel the same way. Homesick, but they can't put their finger on it. And they're self-medicating it with alcohol, drugs, pot. I did that for years. Food, sex, sick relationships, socializing, which is completely insufficient because that just makes the problem worse. Homesickness. That is the subject of today's video. It's the feeling that you don't belong in this world. And millions feel it. It's an ache in the gut. A feeling of sickness. I think, maybe if I eat something, I'll feel better. So then you become a food addict. Like my husband says, you're always happy when you're eating. This was years before I saw the efficacy of fasting and going the opposite way, not eating. But for a while, I would do anything to shut up this feeling of a hole in my soul. Food means mother, you know. You want your mama. You're homesick. You're homesick for God. You're homesick for the true self, which has been submerged in the world. In conforming to consensus, you've lost the true self. That's what you're searching for. That's what you're homesick for. And I was all the time. And I'm not now. I can't believe it. I'm not homesick anymore. Of course, I'm in a wonderful home. It's warm and cozy with my husband who loves me and just people that I trust around, a locked gate, not having to deal with imposters, imposers, interlopers, interrupters, not having to deal with town gossips. It's just wonderful. I don't know what would happen if I would lose my home and have to go out amongst them again. I can't imagine. But all my life, it's like a reward for a whole lifetime of feeling homesick. And it's a common feeling, and people don't talk about it enough. Those who are made for this world, the devil runs this world. They don't feel this. They feel right at home. And the devil gives them bounty and affluence and influence and money and prestigious homes and titles because the devil owns this world. They feel right at home, but they won't have the afterlife. They won't have eternity. Yeah, they feel at home. I used to envy them, but now I see the whole picture. This is something to be endured and overcome. They don't see it that way. That homesickness in your chest and gut is holy. It's a mark of your holiness. Wanted insight. What a lovely insight. and God is with you. And remember, Jesus was not accepted. He was rejected of man, hated by man, killed by man, rejected by the churches, the Pharisees, the traditions of men. They hated him. They couldn't stand the things he was talking about. So, as he said, they hated me before they hated you. That helped me a lot, because I felt hated. I felt particularly hated by women. There's this silent aggression between women. It's very subtle, because they're taught to submerge it. They're taught to be nice. So it's a backhanded compliment. It's a subtle insult. It's gossiping is the worst thing that comes from women. Ruining your reputation. I felt that the minute I came into a small town, Borrego Springs, all the women started in on me. I wasn't just a renter in town. It was like I was entering a sorority, a hostile sorority. It was really weird. That doesn't happen in the rest of the United States. You just rent a place and the whole town doesn't even know you. But in that liberal town, it was like a big sorority. You were like the new kid on the block. And they all exchanged notes about you. And it was very hard on me at first. Very hard. And then I escaped to a ghost town and everything was a lot better. Except many of them followed me out there. So we've settled on that. Homesickness is holy. Holy is separate. You haven't learned to separate yet. You're still trying to adapt to them and get their approval. If they reject you and are mean, you try harder to get their approval. I've been there. I've done that. No, you go silent and you separate. You're not of this world. They are. It was a rough road. The path of the hero is a rough road. Why is it rough? Dealing with people. It's the number one obstruction. People problems. Second obstruction is sin. Your maladaptation to people problems. Sin is a way of finding solace. It's a maladaptive coping strategy to deal with people. What else do we have to deal with? People. Unless you're a sheep herder out just dealing with animals, that's a wonderful life. You don't have this. It's people that cause the problems. Wife of the alcoholic syndrome, she submerges her anger. She holds it in. She's told in Al-Anon or by her mother-in-law, now keep the peace. You're not the one drinking. Try to be nice. So she holds it in. And meanwhile, he's insulting her, giving double messages, gossiping, leaking her business out to the street. And every once in a while, she goes wild. She's the wild savage. Because living in that situation is so crazy-making. Because alcoholism is crazy. You're living with a crazy person, a diseased person. And she goes wild. It's called decompensation. And then she submerges again. That is the effects of maladapting to a crazy environment. When you finally get to the point of death of connection, it's the birth of authenticity. You want to be your authentic self. They forbid that. When the connection dies and you give up on the sorority thing or the fraternity thing or all that stuff, being accepted in the coffee klatch or the false church or whatever, then you start your life of authenticity. And you see right through them. And they're no longer superior to you. You are superior to them now. It's a click in the brain. Come to it now. From the beginning, I wanted to overcome this. I wanted to be rich and famous. I wanted to be a star, to overcome this, to somehow transcend this world and not have to deal with the masses. I could see this. If you rise above it by being very rich or very famous or a star, you wouldn't have to deal with this. Well, of course, that's not true. When people get to that point, they often suicide. It gets worse. But not in a real sense. If you expand your talents and become renowned for what you do, then they put you in a different category. It's not the same thing. But if you're down here, like I was being a renter in a small town on the main drag, and they just thought I was a nobody, and oh, that was horrible. I don't want to be down here with the masses. I want to be above the masses. I never fit in. I always felt sickly separated. I'll never forget, I went to a church retreat when I was about 15. And you'd think that would be okay, right? No, that was horrible. It was the same sorority type atmosphere, the same hierarchy, the same status climbing, the same in-group, out-group thing. It's no different. I felt so sick I couldn't wait to get home. Church retreat, no better than 6th grade camp. Anywhere I went with my peers, I couldn't stand it. The feeling in my stomach, I'll never forget it. Like the stomach flu. That's the solar plexus. That's the indicator of instability in the environment. Man in his environment. Man adapts to his environment. It's through the gut that we can feel it. And I'll never forget that feeling in the gut. I felt terrible when cornered with peers because they would bully me, especially the women. Boy, girls can be mean. Wow, there's this silent aggression between women, and it lasts way up until they're elderly. I guess it's because prehistorically we compete for men. I don't know why. I don't think it was this way in the 50s. I think there was sisterly love in the 50s. But with feminism came competition, and they're aggressive, and they will pull you down, and the female culture does not like uniqueness because they've been made to conform to this crap. So that means they're mad at you for not conforming to it, because then that questions what they've had to put up with. They will pull you down. Odd girl out. If you're an odd girl, i.e. peculiar in God's sight, that's the one they will side against and bully. And I mean, it gets mean. The reality of female silent aggression must be addressed. It may not come out as overtly mean. It may be very couched in mixed messages, innuendos, it's bad. I'm so glad to be free of it. It's such a wonderful thing to not have to deal with that anymore. And then when I went to college, I joined a sorority. I never went to any of the events. They bored me silly. I saw them, just no reason for any of it. Didn't make sense to me. They confronted me. Oh, why aren't you coming? This is an event that you will never forget your whole life. This silly, nonsensical event was so important. Why? Why is it important? So I left that. I couldn't wait to get away from those girls. And then when I got my Ph.D., I didn't see a reason to go to my graduation ceremony. And my aunt said, well, I don't think you ever got one. Why wouldn't you want to go to your graduation ceremony? I said, well, it's just one hour. I have a degree that lasts my whole life. Why do I care about just 1 hour? I didn't see a reason for it, But to her, it was the whole thing. The whole life was about going to that one ceremony. People are weird, and they saw me as weird, and it never ended. It never ended until I got solitude, because God accepts my weirdness. He made me. He made us peculiar. We are the peculiar people. We don't fit into the world. It sees us as peculiar, but God loves His peculiar darling. For years, I would try to force social adaptation through drinking alcohol because it's a social lubricant. And, oh my gosh, it made things so much worse. But, you know, you could just drink it and just forget it and ha 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 ha, laugh at their jokes and pretend. And yeah, but I didn't see how they saw me. Yeah, but that ended in pure disaster. But how many people do that? They use alcohol to adapt, because it's the only way to adapt. Make yourself crazy to adapt to craziness. Somehow drinking alcohol brought me home to my own reality. Yeah, it made me sick physically. It made me crazy probably, but it brought me to myself, where I could just, be by myself, or talk to my ego, or talk to some guardian angel, or whatever it was. That was my only way of separating from the masses and just coming home. But of course it was totally destructive. It's a conduit to the devil. It doesn't bring you to yourself, it brings you to a host of demons, and it ruins your life. But how many people are drinking alcohol to adapt socially? Just think of that. But then they end up alone with it. They just want to be alone with it in the latter stage of alcoholism. Being around people made me bored and sick. I'll admit it to you. That sounds like a very arrogant thing for somebody to say. You can't say that in the world. They'll think, who do you think you are? But that's what it is. And I think many addicts get into their habit to escape the world, to create their own little world in the midst of it. Yeah. Doesn't excuse it. Doesn't justify it. It's a weakness. But I think it explains it. I think there's far more alcoholism as we approach the latter days because wickedness is increasing, the heart grows cold, there is no love, marriages end in divorce, it's hard to trust anybody, people come and go, it's all transitory, nothing's permanent anymore, heart grown cold. So they drink to at least have some feeling of solace amongst all this. It's unfortunate that it doesn't work. This woman I knew in the desert, she'd say, "Oh, you're not connected. You're not connected at all," like I was so inferior. And she would compare me to other people who were so well connected. And I'll never forget sitting by a pool and my sister said, "Go talk to that girl." Like I had to force myself to socialize. Like it was an initiation, something I had to learn to do. Didn't know that girl. I had no desire to go talk to her. Just talk to a stranger. That seems insane to me. But that's the social generation. That's the thing we're born into. And it's not right. You shouldn't talk to strangers, men or women. If you're introduced formally, that's different, but, I remember my father, he took a Dale Carnegie course to learn how to be social. He was not social at all. He was a pharmacist and spoke Latin and things like that, but so he took this course and drank. And he'd go and shake people's hands, they'd smile and smile, he'd learn how to smile. He was good at it, he was smooth, he was charming. No, I don't want that. That's performance. That's fakery. If I have to do that, forget it. I'll just be my antisocial self and just have to accept me that way. I always felt inferior because I wasn't social. And everybody says you should make friends. Like you go out to a store and buy something. How do you make a friend? If you have nothing in common. And the more educated you become or off on your own tangent, the less likely you have anything in common with anybody. It's very rare. So how do you make friends? You either are or you aren't. But that's what we're told to do. It's all bull. No, it's great to have friends, but how many people have true friends? People are stabbed in the back all the time by so-called friends. People turn on a dime. No, forget all that. Just develop your own selfhood. The achievement in life is finding the true self. And insofar as you find the true self, you find God. And insofar as you find God, you find the true self that He designed. It's peculiar and unique. That is the achievement in life. And then you will attract people to it. No trying to make friends. All disease is obstruction, the world. All recovery is elimination of all this crap. Then all success will be attraction. I always hated liberalism. It was so people-centered, so fake, so morality lax. It was lax. There was no clear mores or boundaries. It was all about people, people, people. They substituted the love of God, which should come first, for the love of people, saying people are good, and then there is no God. People-centeredness replaces God-centeredness. Self-forgiveness was hard if liberalism touched your life at all, which it did for all of us growing up in it, learning it in the schools. It touches your life, you let down your morals, and then self-forgiveness is very hard. When you get older and look back to the stuff you did, thinking it was okay, and now you see it isn't, it's very hard to forgive yourself. But self-forgiveness is the most important thing, because how do you do any work for God if you can't forgive yourself? It's a major block. But remember this, it was all from the influence of liberalism. It wasn't something you came up with. Even as children, they sensed I challenged consensus. I wouldn't do things the way they did them. And children can be very mean. I've been studying lately the surge of teachers that are quitting because they can't deal with the behavior problems in the schools. And the kids are getting far crueler to those who will not adapt the way they want to. They want what they want. Maybe they've been spoiled at home, I don't know. And they will do anything to get it. I dealt with this with a gang of boys many decades ago. They're now in their 50s. But it was horrible dealing with. I wasn't ready for it. They were so cruel. They wanted what they wanted. I didn't want what they wanted. And they'd argue and argue. It's constant arguing to get what they wanted. Well, now it's several decades later, and the teachers can't stand it. And they're quitting. Even though they've been educated to be a teacher, they wanted so bad to be a teacher, but they cannot take it because of the behavioral problems of the kids now. Look at the subject of war refugees. They never get over it. Somebody who has survived a war or a concentration camp never get over it because they've seen how people act when they fall out of structure, when there's nothing to hold them into line. That's kind of the way I feel, like a war refugee. I've seen it. I don't trust it. Everybody's on probation with me. And it makes sense. To me, it's the only reality. Or you got to get drunk and adapt by performing and laughing at jokes that aren't funny. And no. You get to a point where you can't do that anymore. I couldn't stand family dinners being, focused on and questioned to see if I am of the status that they could respect, or, not really trusting me. Or my two sisters went to liberal universities, i.e. communist universities, came back totally destroyed. We were close before they went off to those schools. But when they came back, with all that crap they had been drilled into them, there was such a clash. I just couldn't stand going to family dinners ever again. Why should you? It's the fake family. That is the title of the next video, by the way. Fake family. That's a biggie. That's another myth we gotta crush. I got so crazy being around all this, I developed an eating disorder. Because hell, if I could be part of this world. I wanted a separate existence. And I just wonder how many people with an eating disorder, which was very serious, are doing it because they feel the same way. For example, anorexics. They want to be alone. They feel isolated. They're usually celibate. They don't even want any part of the dating game. They're spiritual. They just want God. They often enter a convent when they're cured. They're overachievers. These things I could really relate to. The isolation, particularly not wanting anything to do with female culture. It's very hard for these people who are overachievers, a female genius, to make it in the female culture is a massive block to female genius. They are the least likely to support her. I just wonder how many of those girls are just like that. Now these are positive characteristics. Wanting to be alone, not wanting to be part of a sick culture, isolated, celibate until marriage, spiritual, but they just go down the wrong channel. I often wonder about that. I saw early on that I had to be as good as possible to adapt to this world. So I saw the connection between diet and our appearance, our mood, our efficacy, our efficiency, our talents, just the way we feel, our health. So I saw that in my 20s when I read Arnold Ehret on fruitarianism. I sought the highest, a way to adapt to this crazy world, to transcend it, to not be part of it. Well, let them eat cake. It was a way of being separate. I always saw being rich and famous was a way of doing it. But actually, through diet, it's the first way. That's the ground level. Getting the body in shape. Becoming separate from the culture that way. Diet. That was one thing we can control. We can't control them, but we can control our own body. Camp survivors, war survivors, seeing the true condition of humans when released from polite society. Polite society keeps them in bounds. And what happens when all that structure is lost? Watch out. Barbarism. Even worse than barbarism. Putting live people into ovens. Just horrible. That's what happens. Without all that, I'd say self-discovery is one of the most important things we can do on Earth. We've all been given unique gifts by God, but we can't expand these gifts in the social context. That's why it's so important to understand these principles I'm telling you about social psychology. It's the entry to your gift. You're being blocked. I'll never forget the biography of Christine Aguilar, a famous singer. She was hated by mean girls in high school. They hated her for her gifts. She had to relocate to not be killed. That's what I mean. Learn about social psychology to expand your gifts, because that is the major block.